Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday. Y'all are so funny in the comment section. I just want y'all to know I read those. Y'all have me rolling in the comment section. Diddy, stop pushing the time back. Diddy on CP time. I don't even know what CP. What does CP mean? I hadn't heard that one yet. That's so funny. What's up, everybody? I pushed the time back for a couple of reasons. One, like I said, I read the comments. Somebody was like, if I were you, I would have probably scheduled after Candace. And that's a great point, except I didn't know that Candace had scheduled to go live. I hadn't seen it yet. So it's kind of like album drops. Like if you're a musician, that's how I'm starting to train my mind. When you're a content creator, you want to know your audience and know who they watch. And if another, especially a larger artist or a larger content creator is dropping an album, you kind of want to know, because you don't want to drop at the same time because it can impact your sales. Same way it can impact my views, because for those of you that don't know, yes, I do still plan to work on the Kobe Bryant documentary, which will be a Patreon exclusive. Just give me time. I'm working on it. I'm just one person, but yes. But I want to say that that's something I got to think about when I'm preparing for these videos. But one of the reasons why I was pushing the time back is because I was trying to prepare for everything, because I'm really wanting to talk about this Diddy thing. I feel like it was something else I was just saying, and I forgot. Train of thought. Oh yeah, that's what it is. YouTube. For those of you that don't know, YouTube, if you don't perform very well initially, it can communicate to the algorithm that people aren't really interested in this video. And even if it's a really substantive video full of great information, the video won't get pushed. So it can end up having just 3,000 views, 5,000, 10,000 views, because it didn't initially perform well. So a bad move will be going live at the same time that a Candace Owens is going live, if a lot of your audience watches her content, you know? So that's very important. But this we need to talk about. One thing that you can do to help is to hit the like button, as always. My videos are, I've been saying for a while, my videos get shadow banned anyways. It's very strange. It's very weird. I'll perform like 25,000 views in the first hour or two after my live has ended. And then I'll go to sleep. I'll wake up the next morning by the grace of God. And here we are 8-9 hours later, and I only have 35,000 views total on the video. It makes no sense. That math is not mathing. But at this point, I'm accustomed to it. What can I do? You know, I can't force YouTube to change that. You know, it just is what it is. Especially when you see other content creators, their views seem to be just fine, but mine's, it's just what it is. Like, what can I do? Complaining won't help anything. Let's just keep putting out great content, and eventually things will catch on. You know, that's helped me so far. A lot of you all are newer to the content, and then you go back to something that I did 6 months ago, 2 years ago. You're like, bro, you've been doing this for a while. How come I've never found your channel? Just keep putting out hits. You know, again, thinking from a musician perspective, keep putting out bangers, keep putting out good bodies of work. And whenever the people find you, they'll find you, because I'm fighting the algorithm. You know, the Diddy documentary, we need to talk about. I'm going to reference in this video multiple documentaries that I've created over the past 2 years. They're already linked in the description of this video. I would highly recommend you all go and watch those, as I reference them throughout this video, because the Diddy documentary is a really, really big deal. We're going to talk about some of the revelations from that documentary. Those of you that don't know, there's a Diddy documentary on Netflix. There will be spoilers in this video, and there will be exposés, right? I will be exposing a lot of things from the documentary, but also a lot of things that they didn't talk about in the documentary that I assume they weren't going to, you know, because 50 Cent is one of the people that's behind the documentary. And 50 Cent, despite the fact that he's been beefing with P. Diddy for years, they don't get along. What I want people to remember and understand is that despite that, 50 Cent is still a part of the same industry that he's been complaining about, right? He's still a part of the same industry, which means some of the things that I'm going to point out in this live, 50 Cent is well aware of some of these things, but he's part of the industry. He's not going to talk about that. He's going to expose things from a surface level, so to speak, like if he abused women or not, if he abused drugs or not, was he behind certain pow-powings? But he's not going to delve into other things that play a role into people's careers. All right. The first thing I want to talk about as we transition into this is going to be, I want you all to notice how they start the documentary off. So they start this documentary off with P. Diddy. This right here, what you're looking at on the screen, is P. Diddy he had a videographer film him days before he was arrested. Allegedly, the purpose of this filming was so that P. Diddy could have this if he beat the trial as something to some sort of, body of work, documentary, short film he was going to be putting together in retrospect, right? That was the purpose of him having this person to film him. However, as we know that P. Diddy, quote unquote, lost the trial, even though he came out, he beat some of the charges he did not beat. And as a result of that, he allegedly did not pay the videographers. So the videographers end up selling the footage to 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson, who ended up using this for the documentary, right? Which is extremely ironic because this footage ended up being used against him. And there's many things from this documentary that was very revealing. However, there was many things that they left out. Something I want you to notice is that at the very beginning, September 10th, 2024, remember, P. Diddy is supposed to not know the day he's going to be arrested. Yet the day that they started to record this footage was 6 days before he was arrested, which he would later be arrested in like the hotel lobby that was caught on footage, on hotel cameras footage. So the first question that a person like me would have is it a coincidence that they started to film this 6 days in advance? Almost as if P. Diddy knew the day in which he would be arrested. Because as we know, if you've watched any of my content, any of my documentaries, any of my More Than a Coincidence series, but especially if you've watched any of the videos that's linked in the description, then you will know that 6 is an extremely important number when it comes to the occult and when it comes to Freemasonry. All right. Something else I want you to note, that at the very beginning of this documentary, they were showing P. Diddy talking to his attorneys on the phone. And he has this necklace on around his neck, which really, really stood out to me. This is, since I've been doing this type of content, and it's sort of like just changed the way I look at life, but also how I watch films and how I watch documentaries. There are certain things that I'm looking for, right? And what I noticed is he was wearing this necklace. For those of you that don't know, this necklace is called, or the symbol of this triangle is called triquetra or triquetra, right? And just so you can get a better image of what this looks like, this is another variation of the symbol, right? Triquetra. And this could mean, it depends on what we're talking about, because it means many different things. It don't always necessarily mean something quote unquote evil. I want to say that for the record. However, it is heavy in the occult. All right. It could mean protection, sort of spiritual protection, which is going to come up and going to be relevant here in a moment once I talk about something else that was sort of portrayed in the film, in the documentary. This symbol could also mean mind, body, and spirit. right? Life, Death, and Rebirth, which on surface, on faith for face value, you may say, well, that seems innocent. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, when it comes to the occult, if you call yourself a Christian, there is something wrong with that. If you've watched my Young Thug documentary, the first, second, or the third one, we talked about the life, death, and rebirth rituals that's really big in Hollywood. They show these things in the music industry. They show these things with actors and actresses in films, right? Young Thug, Young Thug specifically has portrayed this on his album cover. So let me search that with you all. This video is going to be more so like research based with each other. Here, let's look at it. Let's see. Young Thug Blood album cover. Right? This is Young Thug, who is a self-admittedly, if you've been watching my content for some time, then you know that Young Thug is a self-admitted Freemason. Right? This is something that many of you all should know by now. But I can't just assume that you know this and that you've been following my content. So if you don't know, yes, Young Thug is a Freemason. And he says that because he's a Freemason, he beats all his cases, which this trial he just went through, which if any other regular person would have went through that, there's no way you're beating that. Even remotely beating that. You're spending probably 3 to 4 life sentences behind bars. Instead, Young Thug got time served and he got a heck of a deal, even though he's on like a long probation or whatever. He still beat the murder charges, the RICO charges, right? This album cover is very similar to DMX's album cover. Let's go to DMX. He was another one, right? Flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood. DMX spent a lot of time talking about the Lord, talking about God. He did in his music, but he also spent time talking about what he had to do to become famous, right? And it's not a coincidence. And I'm going to show one more and then we can move on. I won't digress too much. But another one is Eminem. I talk about this on Patreon, which is the rebirth ritual that's really big with other celebrities. And it's him in the bathtub. Where is it at? Bingo. There it is. Eminem, a lot of people won't be as surprised to hear this with Eminem, but it's no different. It's all the same. Right? These are life, death, and rebirth rituals that they're portraying through their music and their album covers. So when you look at symbols like what P. Diddy is wearing in this documentary, it's not as innocent as many people may believe. All right. But the overall, the number one reason I believe that P. Diddy is wearing this, though, is for quote unquote spiritual protection, because the purpose of this filming is because he's going through this, these allegations and all these lawsuits that's coming out, the woodwork from all these different people. He don't really know which way to look. He don't know who to go to. So he's, strategizing with his attorney on the phone, as we can see here in this still shot. All right. So there is that. Now, another part of this film, what you'll see in this documentary, is there's some point in time when Diddy is walking the streets with fans. Right? And while he's walking the streets with fans, there's a point in time where let me see if I can find that. I might be able to pull it up. So there's a point in time where Diddy is walking the streets. He's giving fans hugs throughout New York. And while he's walking the streets, giving pictures, giving hugs, interacting with people, because he knows he's going to be arrested soon, there's a point in time where he gets into one of the SUVs with his team And he talks about how he felt extremely disgusting. He felt extremely nasty because he had been interacting with all these different people that he didn't know, which I found that to be a bit distasteful, because why would you say that out loud? Why would you say that on video footage? But it also goes back to this necklace that he's wearing, because I do believe that P. Diddy viewed his quote-unquote fans as the way in which we're going to discuss later in this video, the way he viewed everybody else in his life. And that's as expendable, as something, as a means to an end, right? He saw himself as above these people. So when he gets in the SUV, he talks about how he needs to take a scathing hot bath with peroxide because he's been interacting with people all day. He felt disgusting being around them. All right. Something else that was portrayed in this film. See if I can pull this up. Is the, let's see, the Diddy celebrity basketball game in 1991. So Diddy party, celeb party. Let's see if we can pull this up for a permanent image. So this event right here is one of the most devastating and sad occurrences in the music industry history that I don't think enough people talk about. Celebrity This is an event that P. Diddy threw in 1991, where he invited a plethora of different musicians and artists and celebrities and basketball players out to this basketball celebrity, the celebrity basketball game at the City College. Well, it is said that at this event, P. Diddy had apparently oversold it, so to speak. He had over promoted the event. So the capacity of the event could only hold a certain amount of people. There was still a ton of people outside the door. And I forget the phrase that they used in the documentary, but there is a phrase that they use to explain when fans are no longer allowed inside of the building, they rush the doors. And that's exactly what happened at this event, which would later lead to 9 people losing their life and thousands of people, or hundreds of people rather, was injured. I want you to also take note of the number 9, which in occultism, as above, so below. This is a lot of Baphomet or Baphomet worshipers believe it as above, so below. So the number 9 could very easily be seen or viewed as the number 6. Am I saying unequivocally that this was a harvesting ritual? Allegedly. I'm not saying that unequivocally, but it does give you cause to pause. Because P. Diddy took a lot of blame for this event, but he never faced any jail time. He just got a lot of backlash, right? It was sort of a reputational hit. And all he needed was the correct PR to sort of bounce back from that. And that's exactly what happened. Something else that's very important to note from this situation is that P. Diddy did something very, very clever that he did not learn himself, but he learned from others before him, like Clive Davis. If you have not checked out my Clive Davis, I put that up there as one of the best documentaries on this channel. Clive Davis, the mentor, the #1 mentor behind P. Diddy. The other two people that had huge influences on P. Diddy was a guy by the name of Andre Harrell and a guy by the name of Russell Simmons. Russell Simmons, Andre Harrell are also mentioned in the Clive Davis documentary. And I also have my P. Diddy playlist linked in the description as well. All right. Something that's to note from this documentary that we found out that not long after this City College stampede happened, P. Diddy, as if he expected that things like this could take place, was already prepared. What do I mean? He started Bad Boy Records. Remember, he used to work under Andre Harrell, right? Def Jam Records, Russell Simmons, and the crew. Well, P. Diddy did something very clever, which is he took his business, his record label, as we know, called Bad Boy Records, which I, once again, in the Clive Davis documentary, sort of get into the potential meaning behind the name Bad Boy Record, which is sort of tied indirectly to, what is it? What's the appropriate term for YouTube? The illegal moving of human bodies. Yeah. P. Diddy put his Bad Boy Records in the name of his mother and his best friend at the time, who was also a co-founder of Bad Boy Records, this guy by the name of Kirk Burroughs, who was also, by the way, featured in this documentary. He did this so that he could not directly be sued, because Bad Boy Records is listed under P. Diddy's mother and P. Diddy's best friend, but his name isn't on there. So if they wanted to sue him directly, he has very little to no money, so they wouldn't get anything, which I think is absolutely both genius and also evil. Because I would imagine if you're responsible for something like this, 9 people lost their life, 9 families are impacted and affected, you would want to do right by people. That's not P. Diddy's perspective. This right here is very similar to another situation that took place. And I'm just going to show it to y'all. I'm just going to share the screen. I didn't have enough time to have these images already downloaded, so I'm just going to share them to you. It's very similar to this situation. How many of you all remember this? Do any of you all remember this situation? This is the Travis Scott situation that happened a few years ago. Almost 8 passed away in the crowd. Many people looked at this very similarly as what they call a harvesting ritual. And let me just say, for the record, for those of you out there that may feel like these things are conspiracy theories, or they're so hard to believe, or that they're a stretch, if you can acknowledge that there are different religions, but you can also acknowledge that within each respective religion, there is a belief system, certain rituals, and certain practices, then it shouldn't be very hard to believe that there are people in religions that participate in things called harvesting rituals, because it's a real thing. Travis Scott, at an event that was full of symbolism, such as this shirt that is showing blue individuals walking through a door and coming out on the other side as devils, which is very symbolic, right? Very, very symbolic. Let's see if I can find the poster. There's a very demonic poster from this event, and there it is. There's actually another one, though. See here. Here it is, full size. And it should come as no surprise that Young Thug in the top left corner was actually in attendance for this concert. As we can see, the one-eye symbolism, right? And the portal in the middle. Take a long, hard look at that. So that event was very similar. Many people lost their life. Many people were stampede. I mean, it's very similar. It was way too many people at this concert as opposed to the limit. And I was looking for an image. I can't find it, but there was another. There was a huge sign on this stage that said, "See you on the other side." All right, capacity. That's the word. There was a certain capacity, and there were thousands of additional people because Travis Scott promoted it that way. Very similar to the P. Diddy situation, right? There's something else I want to show you all. So there's also a guy by the name of Shine. So let's look up Shine and Diddy. Shine and P. Diddy was involved in an incident in 1999. Let me say this. Of course. Okay, that's not gonna work either. I'm trying to get the image here, y'all. So 1 sec. All right. So this guy right here is his name is Jamal Barrow, but his nickname is Shine. And he was P. Diddy's right-hand man. In this documentary on Netflix, they talk about how P. Diddy set up. Now, earlier I mentioned how P. Diddy pretty much used everybody around him. Well, in this documentary, they talk about how P. Diddy manipulated Shine into taking jail time because he hired the attorneys that represented Shine. So let me back up here. P. Diddy, Shine, and P. Diddy's crew went to a club one night, and this lady ended up getting shot in the face. By the way, this is a lady that has since come out and said she saw for herself, and she was saying it at the time as well, that P. Diddy is the one that shot her. There's no discussion. He's the one that shot her. As the police was doing an investigation, Sean would eventually be arrested for this crime. P. Diddy would hire the attorneys for Sean. Sean didn't know at the time that these attorneys was also the attorneys for P. Diddy, which means that they had P. Diddy's interest in mind. It was a conflict of interest. These these attorneys for P. Diddy manipulated the trial and had Sean to confess to shooting this lady, even though he didn't do it. And he ended up doing jail time. He ended up doing jail time for this event. Which is absolutely evil to do that. But let me tell you all something that they didn't share in the documentary. There is a guy by the name of Gene Deal. Gene Deal is the former bodyguard of P. Diddy. Many of you all watching this video right now or watching it on playback, you absolutely know who P. Diddy. If you know who P. Diddy is, you probably know who Gene Deal is. Well, he had a few things to say about this documentary. And I want to play the first clip of something that he said that I thought was crazy. Let's take a listen to what Gene Deal had to say here.
And we talk about the whole incident of the Quad Studio shit. Like in the documentary, they was talking about that, right? You know what I'm saying? They talked about the Quad Studio shit. But they didn't mention the fact, and they left it out, that Big and C's did not know that Puff and Andre Harrell was in Jimmy Henchman's office the day Pac got killed. The day Pac got shot at Quad Studio. Let me repeat that again so it don't get mixed up in the whole thing. They did not mention that Andre Harrell and Puff Daddy and Jimmy Henchman were all in the office together. Puff was on the office because he was trying to spy on Big them, because Big was writing the Junior Mafia stuff and Puff had his publishing. I told this to a couple of people before. I said it before, and you got people that's running with it like they knew the story in the whole 9 yards. You understand? They'll lie and you ask them, how do you know that? Who told you? They couldn't even tell you that. They'll tell you some lie, they did some kind of investigation, but it didn't happen like that. You understand? Puff was there to spy on Big because he had owned Big Publishing. And Big had turned around, and the same people who helped Puff get Big Publishing told Big to turn and put Tatiana or put somebody else's name on his publishing or give it to Lil C's or whoever, this, that, and the third that he wrote for so he can get the money from it. So that's how that went down. So they was there to spy on Big. In the interim of him being there to spy on Big, Jimmy Henchman told him that they finna teach Pac a lesson. Because Pac had owed him some money. So that's why he was up in the studio and was coming to the studio. Pac owed him some money. He was gonna work it off and get some money from doing a song with Lil Sean. And that's what that was about. But Pac was talking greasy to Jimmy Henchman, and Jimmy Henchman wasn't the type of dude that you talk greasy to, allegedly. Unless you're 50 Cent.
So Diddy knew what was going to happen to Pac?
He knew Pac was about to deal with, yeah. He was there to see it. He was there to see it. He wasn't only there to see Big them. When Jimmy Henchman told him that, he was there to see what's going to happen to Pac. He was there for that. Because had he not been there for that, he would have went up there in the office. He would have went to the studio or the studio session with Big Nim. He would have went to that studio session with Big Nim. He knew what room Big Nim was in. He didn't do that. He was there to see what was going to happen to Pac. I think Jimmy told him.
Now I want to make sure that people understand what you just heard. So in the documentary on Netflix, they showed a scene where many of you all that have followed Tupac's career close enough, you know that there was a moment where he was shot. He was pop-out outside of Quad Studios, and he actually survived. So this is not the situation or the incident in Las Vegas. But in the documentary, they basically paint it in a way in which that allege or allude to the fact or insinuate that P. Diddy had something to do with it, or at least had foreknowledge. Gene Deal, the former bodyguard right here of P. Diddy, is saying that someone else actually was behind it, but P. Diddy knew about it. But part of the reason why I wanted to cover this is because I want you all to understand how big of a deal that this is, that we have a documentary right now on Netflix that is insinuating that P. Diddy single-handedly himself is behind both the pow-powing of both Tupac and Biggie. Biggie was signed to P. Diddy. Tupac, they allege in this documentary, was very envious of Tupac. P. Diddy was very envious of Tupac. That's crazy, man. And what he's saying in this clip right here is that P. Diddy, in fact, knew about it. And he was there not only to spy on Biggie, which is going to be important here in a moment, with what we're about to discuss about Biggie's death and Diddy's alleged role in Biggie's death. But also some other things. Because Gene Deal also had some things to say that the documentary did not talk about. And I do believe that this was intentional, because if they touched on it, then certain things were probably going to have to get brought up. And that is Kim Porter. Kim Porter, for those of you that don't know, is the mother of P. Diddy's children, who lost her life many years ago from quote unquote pneumonia. For those of you that don't know, a common practice in Hollywood is for people to be poisoned. But in your autopsy, it will appear the same way that pneumonia would show up. A guy by the name of Big Homie CC, the celebrity bodyguard, has said that he's experienced this himself, and he's heard about this and been seeing this in the industry for some time. Well, Gene Deal shared some revelations about how Kim Porter and P. Diddy actually met. And it wasn't just the fact, or it wasn't exactly the fact that P. Diddy stole Kim Porter from her then boyfriend, a guy by the name of Al B. Shore, who was a very popular, I believe, R&B artist at the time, who also, by the way, also lost his life under very suspicious circumstances as well. But according to Gene Deal, Kim Porter was actually being passed around before she got to Diddy, which is how she ended up working for Def Jam as a receptionist to begin with.
And when I was looking at this documentary, we already know that Diddy, he took Kim Porter from Albie Shore, but I had no idea that she was working at the front office at Uptown.
Well, first of all, man, they got part of the shit right. You understand? And they was talking about how Kim Porter worked at the front desk. How did Kim Porter coming from Georgia get a position like that to work at the front desk of Uptown Records? You understand? First and foremost, you got your man Russell Simmons out here dealing with these young girls. You understand? Kim Porter was one of them. She was then passed from Russell Simmons to Andre Harrell. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm just gonna give it to you. You understand? Because these we out here playing, talking all this shit, and be acting like they know what they talking about. She was working for Russell first, then she was passed over to Andre Harrell. You understand? So now Andre Harrell has her in the office and stuff like that. And it was said that it was a girl also in Uptown, and I don't know if it was Kim. I don't know if it was Kim or one of her friends walked in on Andre Harrell getting a fellatio and was given a red Mercedes-Benz 300C for keeping her mouth closed behind it.
So think of it as like a TV ad with a catalog component where I can choose on the Roku app and
you understand? Because when Kirk Burroughs was talking about Puff did that or whatever like that, you understand? It actually happened to Andre Harrell up in Uptown Records. Kim Porter's at the desk because Andre Harrell is doing Russell Simmons a favor by giving her a job over there. Because now Russell Simmons is trying to get her friend Kamoya, because all of them was actors. I mean, all of them was models. Kim, Kamoya, and they was young girls. So now her and Al get together and everything like that. Check this out. Kim didn't get with Puff until Puff got his deal. Because you got to realize Misa Kim was cool. Kim didn't get with Puff until after Puff got his deal. So all that, he got him from Al and stuff like that. Nah. She went with the money was, bro. She went with the money. And you could call it whatever you want to. You understand what I'm saying? That's how it was. You understand? I think Justin could have been about 2 or 3 or something like that when they really made it a thing. It takes me back, brother. I don't know. But I know they was cool. Misa was cool with Kim. You understand? Because Kim was with Al in the whole 9 yards, and Misa was with Puff. Kim went over and snaked Misa with Puff when Puff got a deal, when he finally got that deal with Clive Davis.
Bingo.
And the money came in. So she started messing with him, this, that, and the third, the whole 9 yards. Now, it goes deeper than that. Because Kim turns around and she gets snaked. And nobody said this in the documentary. She gets snaked by Sarah, which is her best friend. It was Tanisha, Sarah, and Kim. Those 3 girls right there used to always be together. So she done snaked Misa. You understand? Sarah ended up snaking Kim over a $500 bet that Puff had in the office that he was going to take her from some basketball player dude that she was messing with.
Gary Payton.
At the time.
It was Gary Payton.
Gary Payton.
Gary Payton.
Yep.
You're right. Gary Payton. Now, allegedly, I don't know if Gary was messing with her or whatever like that, but that's what he told, that's what he said. But Sarah goes deeper than that. Sarah was messing with Tupac. She was messing with Corey. And she goes with Puff and have a baby by him. You understand what I'm saying? So all these girls who all are friends, get manipulated by Puff, and they at one time was like enemies. They wasn't effing with each other. Then all of a sudden, I guess money had changed that whole shit for you.
What was Puffy's relationship like with Kirk Burrows?
Now, this is the part of the interview that's going to get very interesting because this is Gene Deal, P. Diddy's former bodyguard, being asked about Diddy's relationship with Kirk Burrows. As a reminder, Kirk Burrows, before we continue this, let me show you what he looks like. Kirk Burrows is this guy right here that was featured in the documentary. This guy is one of the co-founders of Bad Boy Entertainment, alongside P. Diddy, who was quote-unquote best friends with them at the time. But Kirk Burrows talks about in this interview, or in this documentary on Netflix, how P. Diddy assaulted him. He claims that P. Diddy wasn't just assaulting women, he also assaulted him in the early 90s. But according to Gene Deal, he don't know if that's exactly true, maybe initially, but he believes that they were actually a thing. But I'll let him tell it.
Bruh, Kirk Burrows was the president of Bad Boy. I met Kirk, because I knew Diddy from the same gang. I didn't meet Kirk until Diddy asked me to start letting him call in so I could do security for him or whatever like that. It went like I wouldn't do security unless Puff called me himself. But then he said, yo, let Kirk, because I don't know my schedule, Gene. I don't know what I'm going to do. Let Kirk, call you and let you know what schedule I have if you could do security for me on those days. Now, I told Diddy at the time, yo, man, I don't want nobody to know anything. So if anything happened, you don't know me. All right? I told him that. Just like that. If anything had to go down, you don't know me. And I was saying that in the sense, whereas that if anything had to go down and shit like that, let the people do their own homework. Don't give them my name up and everything like that. Anybody would tell them like that if you are doing security for a dude of that caliber. So now, Kirk Burrows, me and Puff, for some odd reason, after the Red Zone, because Puff used to do, they didn't talk about this, he used to do The Building, Daddy's House, whereas that unsigned rappers, unsigned artists would rap at this place, and it was called The Building on Monday nights. Then he would do the Red Zone on Wednesday. I would have to go with him and make sure that he was all right and take the money to Kirk Burrows' house after the Red Zone. But I didn't think nothing at the time. At that time, I didn't think nothing of it, that he was spending the night with Kirk Burrows either every Wednesday night. He got a whole girl at home, but he's spending the night with Kirk Burrows. He's staying at Kirk's house. Like, yo, all right, cool.
That's weird.
Didn't think nothing of it. And then Kirk had made a mention to some people over the years that him and Puff used to wake up and pray together. And I'm in my mind, I know he's talking about saying prayers and all that shit like that. But in my other mind, I'm thinking you waking up with a dude praying? Shit is going on. Then there was a situation that somebody said long time ago in the office, they caught Kurt giving Puff a fellatio in the office.
Wow.
Now, that was the rumor that was going around. How true it is, they was lovers. It came out in his lawsuit. He tried to say that Puff was, what he said, sexually assaulting him. But if somebody's sexually assaulting you, how you letting them come stay at your house every Wednesday night after the club?
Because Diddy, and this is one of the things that they didn't talk about in this documentary, Diddy is a part of the boule. And I believe some of these things are ritualistic. I also believe that some of the things that he was doing and participating with, as far as what's her name, Cassie, I believe that some of those, what do they call it, the quote unquote freak offs. I believe that the freak offs were quote unquote ritualistic, 100%. Right? Which, by the way, I don't find it as a surprise that 50 Cent helped co-produce or executive produce this documentary, not only because of his beef or quote unquote beef with P. Diddy, but also because it came out during Diddy's trial that the mother of 50 Cent's son was actually participating in the freak offs. Now, how crazy is that? I will be furious to find that out. Right? Gene Deal, I do believe him, but he also was a bodyguard for celebrities, and I also look at them a little sideways. I'm watching Gene Deal's hand signs while he was talking, and he was throwing up some devil horns a couple of times. I caught it. Maybe it was innocent, maybe not, but I do believe that Gene Deal is single-handedly responsible for exposing a lot of things. He's been saying for years that he believes that P. Diddy is behind Biggie's death. Because for those of you that don't know, this was revealed in the documentary as well. Biggie was supposed to go to the UK. He's supposed to go overseas. Somewhere overseas. And it was decided by Diddy and Diddy by himself that Biggie was no longer going. Biggie did not want to go to California because of the beef or the quote unquote issues that they had. And they were, quote unquote, not allowed to go or step foot in California. Diddy decided to ignore that, still told Biggie he had to come. And that's what happened, and we know the rest. Well, what was revealed in this documentary that a lot of people didn't know was that even in Biggie's death, P. Diddy did some snake behavior. He took the clause of Biggie's paperwork and he changed some of the forms in the middle of that paperwork. The reason why that's important is because you typically sign, like you write your signature at the beginning and probably the end, maybe a few times in between. But those pages where you don't have to sign, it's easy to switch them out with other forms. So when Biggie lost his life, it is said in this documentary that Diddy changed some paperwork that manipulated the details of his deal. It also came out that it was forced that he had Biggie himself to pay for his own funeral. But what they don't tell you in this documentary is that there is a high chance that P. Diddy and Biggie Smalls was romantically involved with each other. That's what they don't tell you in the documentary. Again, you got to watch my Diddy documentary videos. We go all into the details of this. From very suspect lyrics from Biggie Smalls, alleged transgenders that was featured in his videos, behavior between Diddy and Biggie on camera for everybody to see is not the behavior of a typical two heterosexual men. And I think by this point in time, it's not a secret that Diddy is not heterosexual. It's not even a conspiracy theory anymore. So that makes this claim that less far-fetched. I also want to state for the record that I mentioned earlier that, you know, it came out in this documentary that Diddy was jealous of Tupac. But that does not let Tupac off the hook, because I do believe that Tupac was an industry plant, 100%. I also believe that there's a strong chance that Tupac was a homosexual himself. I don't believe that simply acting or behaving feminine at a younger age or an older age necessarily makes you homosexual. I do not believe that. However, I do believe that it says a lot that you can have drastically different personalities in the matter of 2 years, in the matter of 3 years, with no signs of that previous side of your personality. As many of you have seen by now, there's an infamous video of Tupac when he was 17 years old. And a lot of people have just noticed his feminine behavior or hand gestures, and his voice is just different from what was plastered everywhere throughout his both acting and his music career, which I would argue that both was acting.
But I like it. It's nice. It's like a learning stage for me.
Do you wish you could be 18 and when you get some more rights?
Well, 18 will bring lots of responsibilities that I don't want, but it'll bring respect that I feel like that's the only way I can get it. You know, I try to be as mature as I can be and demand it wherever I can get it. But 18 is like, you're an adult. You like today when I had to sign the release form, I felt so bad because I couldn't sign it myself. I had to go and get my mother's and all that. But 18 it's just society's way of saying that you're ready. When you get out there, the responsibility is staggering. And I'm ready. I'm going to be a little more ready than someone who's grown up in Disney World, you know, with Santa Claus is coming. You know, my mother had a really bad childhood, and my father had a bad childhood, and I had a bad childhood, but I love my childhood. Even though it was bad, I love it. I feel like it's taught me so much. And I feel like nothing can faze me. You know, nothing in this world, nothing can surprise me. It might set me back, but only momentarily, only to spring back. But don't get the wrong idea. I feel like I'm being gloomy. I don't mean just be like, damn it, it's bad out there. But I mean, when the good things come, and they are going to come, and everybody knows that. Good things are going to come, and you're going to see them for yourself. You're going to see if they're good. But it's harder to see the bad things, and everybody wants to shield the bad things, and that's where it gets complicated and it gets real rotten.
What do you think's the hardest thing about being, being your age?
The hardest thing about being my age is, not everybody, but frequently, teenagers are stereotyped in being loud, music-loving, girl-chasing, car-wanting, not caring about the world.
Man, look at that. Who touches their ear like that? Come on, man.
Being loud, music-loving, girl-chasing, car-wanting, not caring about the world. Cokeheads, drinking coke and smoking and being drug addicts. And I mean, in some ways we are. I mean, I chase girls and want the car and loud music, but no secret, but the world is bad shit.
I've seen guys speak to women with this much respect, and I deplore that. My mother is just totally, I grew up, my mother raised me, so I have this much respect for women, and I fight often because of that. And it gives me a lot of friends. I mean, I get a lot of friends, but I get a lot of friends because I have respect for women, ultra respect for women. But then, like I was liking this girl in Tam, and I'm extra nice, you know, extra gentleman. I'm extra just like, oh, you're beautiful and you deserve the best. And she told me I was too nice. I couldn't believe it. It wouldn't work because I was too nice. That was the ultimate stab in the back. So I went through a week of just going, forget it, I'm just going to be like them. Because they seem to get the girls, and they call girls the B word, you know, and they smack and beat, and they're getting girls, and I'm going, peace, and I think you're beautiful, and they're going, well, I like him because he's masculine. I'm masculine. I mean, and with the guys, I'm trying, and like yesterday he was cursing, and I was like, don't curse. And he got mad at me because I told him not to curse. But my plan is that if I keep telling girls not to let them call you these names, and if I keep saying it, it's going to catch on. Because the girls won't allow them to be their boyfriend if they're going to speak to them like that. And they're going to want me. So in order to not get them to go with me, they're going to have to change, and that's how they change. So I'll be the scapegoat, no problem, as long as it changes. So, yeah. So I think it's going to work. I think it'll work out.
Listen to me. For those of you that want to make excuses for this, I'm just saying, regardless of what you may feel about this clip, I have my thoughts. How do you go from that to what he became? Right? Let me show it. Hold on. How do you go from that to this? How? Really, bro? Some people have come out and said, well, after his, I think, 1996 film Juice, where he played a gangster role, he was never the same. No. Like, no. You don't become this. I believe all of this was an act. But I say all of that to say, just so I can get back on point, the point of me mentioning this is to say, I believe a lot of these people were actors. That's what they won't tell you in the documentary. P. Diddy was a part of the Boule. If you have not seen my Martin Luther King documentary, I would highly recommend, it's linked in the description. I would highly recommend you go and check that out. That documentary is crazy. Especially or specifically when we speak about the Boule, because P. Diddy and Martin Luther King Jr. had quite a bit in common. There are certain responsibilities that you have been a part of the Boule. You're sort of the intermediary between the elite whites that are Freemasons and the lower class blacks, so to speak. Boule is like the upper echelon of so-called black society. P. Diddy is a part of that, allegedly. I also have reason to believe that T.D. Jakes, the pastor, I also have a couple of videos on him. Right? I also believe that Tupac was a plant. Playing a role. Not just in his films, but in the music industry. I originally wanted to play the Boule part of the Martin Luther King documentary clip, but we've already been live for an hour. So I'm going to share one more thing from the documentary that I want people to keep in mind, just in case you go and watch it. There is a part in the film. Let me see if I can find his picture. By a guy by the name of Lil Rod. Let me pull him up. So Lil Rod, of course, absolutely, of course. Of course. Let me find an appropriate picture here. So there's a guy. Of course. This is amazing, bro. This is amazing. Okay, cool. I'll just do it this way. Okay. So there's a guy by the name of Lil Rod. He worked on P. Diddy's album called The Love Album. And in this documentary, he pretty much revealed that he wasn't really ever properly compensated. And really, that's what led to him suing. Otherwise, I'm not so sure that he would have even sued P. Diddy to begin with, even though he also alleged in this documentary that he was SA'd. For those of you that don't know what that means, somebody please hop in the comment section and let them know. He was SA'd by P. Diddy. This is Lil Rod, and obviously that is P. Diddy. He said that he believed that he was drugged by Diddy. He would wake up sometimes and Diddy would be in the bed with him. But there is something else that he referenced that I want people to not take light of. He mentions a situation where P. Diddy and his son allegedly shot a guy or pow-powed a guy in their bathroom. And Lil Rod witnessed this. Or at least he was in the outside room when it took place. There was red liquid everywhere. There was blood everywhere. He mentions how this situation was swept under the rug. The police was called, the ambulance showed up, but they was able to manipulate the crime scene where it appeared as if the situation took place somewhere else, not in the bathroom. The way that they were able to pull this off is because P. Diddy had a guy that he knew that was a part of the police force, law enforcement, that was in his pocket. This was P. Diddy's single designated guy. His name was Fahim. Every time Diddy had a situation, this guy Fahim would show up and make it go away. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because P. Diddy did not learn this, and it did not start with P. Diddy. Just like P. Diddy putting Bad Boy Entertainment in his mother's and his best friend's name to avoid legal troubles, he did not learn that himself. Just like drugging people, he did not learn himself. He learned this from those that came before him, like Clive Davis, like Andre Harrell. Those that show him the game. That's what they don't talk to you about in the documentary. I don't know how you put a documentary like this together and you don't mention Clive Davis. That's crazy to me. You don't mention the wrongdoings of Andre Harrell. You don't mention the Boule. You don't mention Freemasonry. Because a lot of these things was ritualistic. Right? Gene Deal also said that if it comes out or if it's true that P. Diddy paid to have Tupac pow-powed in Las Vegas, which eventually led to him losing his life, quote unquote, then Kirk Burroughs, the same guy who was a part of the documentary, the same guy who claimed that P. Diddy assaulted him, the same guy that Gene Deal said that was staying all night with P. Diddy. Gene Deal says that Kirk Burroughs would have known where the money would have came from because he was over the finances at Bad Boy Records, which is absolutely crazy to be saying that because that would implicate Kirk Burroughs as well. In the documentaries, they talk about a guy named Zip, who was the middleman. Allegedly, P. Diddy paid off gang members to take out Tupac. The middle guy was someone by the name of Zip. He was the intermediary between P. Diddy and the gang members. And in the documentary, they allege that Diddy gave only half $500,000 to Zip, since the only person that was unalive that night was Tupac and not Suge Knight as well. Well, Gene Deal is saying he for himself saw $1 million check from Zip that allegedly came from Jimmy Henchman, the same guy that P. Diddy was in the studio with, Quad Studio, the night that Tupac got pow the first time. Gene Deal says that, along with another friend of his, they saw with their own eyes $1 million check from Jimmy Henchman that was given to Zip. So where would $1 million come from? Because it came, he said that check came immediately after the Tupac incident, right? Immediately after the Tupac incident. How do you explain that? I believe there was a lot more ritualistic homosexuality happening, as been alleged in the industry for a long time, and the documentary chose not to take that route. I wonder why. All right. I wonder why. But a lot of the things that I said in this video will make way more sense if you check out the links in the description to my Clive Davis documentary, which is a lot more enjoyable to watch. It's not like the live. You have a B-roll, you have video footage, you have imageries and photos. It's a lot more enjoyable than these lives. People keep saying that Tupac stayed in the Juice character. I don't believe that. If you're alleging that he stayed that way unintentionally, or if you're alleging that he stayed that way because he couldn't get out of it, so not unintentionally, but I'm not buying it. I think it was all an act on purpose to push the country in a particular direction in the urban community. Because remember, that was around the time of COINTELPRO, or after COINTELPRO. That was around the time of the war on drugs, and that was around the time that the alleged meeting happened in the 90s of these group of white elite Jewish men that decided that they were going to create the hip-hop to prison pipeline. They needed the music to help encourage criminality. And that's exactly what happened. It's no secret that immediately after that, Tupac is birthed. Biggie is birthed. The lyrics, hip-hop used to be conscious, right? Very intellectual. It's no secret that it changed. And it was abrupt around the time that NWA was a thing. Right? But yeah, again, this video will make more sense if you go and check out my Martin Luther King documentary, my Clive Davis documentary, and my P. Diddy playlist. Because this guy right here, Lil Rod, his story is very similar to Kevin McCall, the video that I posted like a week and a half ago, who was the ghostwriter to Chris Brown. Kevin McCall also alleged that Chris Brown was involved in homosexuality in the music industry. Kevin McCall shares in an interview how he indulged in, quote unquote, the dark side, to be rebellious, right? Interacting with people like Marilyn Manson, who's putting on women breasts on his album covers. An open Satanist. Why would you be hanging out with that person? It's the same thing with Lil Rod. When you place yourself in certain circumstances and you see the red flags, but you continue to do it because you think it can help your career, these are chances that you're taking on your own. Right? Let me show y'all that album cover of Marilyn Manson if you've never seen it. I would highly encourage you all to go and watch my Kevin McCall documentary as well. It's also in the it's also in the description. Now I'm gonna be honest. This is just my honest opinion. As I watch Lil Rod interact, I think part of the reason Diddy had him around was because Diddy probably already felt like Lil Rod he's swaying that way. And Lil Rod, if you see this video, man, I mean no disrespect, but to be honest, to me, I get those vibes from you like you are. That's my personal opinion. You know what I mean? Like certain types of men, I just don't think Diddy would have had around because he'd know what the consequences would have been. Marilyn Manson naked cover. Look at this. Why would you be around? Like, what is this? What is that? So you got Chris Brown's ghostwriter, Kevin McCall, saying that he was hanging out with this person. Marilyn Manson Satanist. I share all of this in the documentary. Look at this. Come on, bro. You're willing to be around this person. Anyways, those documentaries would help complete a lot of what you heard in this video. And it won't sound like I'm just doing all this rambling. It'll connect some dots for you. You know? But anyways, yeah. I just wanted to share that. I didn't even realize it would have been this long. I'm gonna start working on some other stuff, man. I will. Yes, I agree. Very disturbing. But yeah, once again, if you haven't seen any of those documentaries, go check them out. Hit the like button on your way out. I would appreciate it. I'm going to catch you all in the next one. Peace.
Oh, yeah, Diddy got a podcast.
Attitudes and our work ethic become very important in realizing our goals and opening up possibilities. I had lunch a couple of weeks ago with a recent graduate at UCA. And his story is really fascinating. It's one of overcoming homelessness during his time pursuing his degree, first at a community college here in Arkansas, and then finishing his bachelor's degree here at UCA. His narrative ranges from estrangement from family for many years to a hopeful reunion with mother and siblings. His record is one of overcoming odds in a way that I probably could not, and certainly demonstrating levels of tenacity and patience and optimism that I can only marvel at. He wanted to talk with me about his new job and his career path going forward. I really need to be there to learn from him because that's where the real value was.
Everything I say in this video is alleged. Allegedly. No such thing as a life that's better than yours. Y'all can just repeat after me. I really appreciate it. Alright? No such thing. Come on, we can do better than that. Talk to it. Talk to it. Alright, let's start it over. No such thing as a life that's better than yours. You're worse than the rich white people or the rich white Jews that own these record labels because they don't even understand these populations. You have a lot closer relationship to these people and you're leading them to hellfire. You are leading them in the wrong direction in the name of getting rich and famous. How dare you?
Oh, yeah, Diddy got a podcast.